Hey there, Eric with you. Thanks so much for joining me. I just wanted to speak to you today regarding emotional eating with children. And it's a tough, difficult subject, but it seems to be becoming more and more prevalent. And so I think it's definitely worth addressing, and maybe this can really help some people out there. I can even remember as a little guy how we connected certain feelings with foods. Of course, on our birthdays, you get the big birthday cake, or on Christmas you have cookies and pies. So you start to associate being happy or celebrating with certain types of food. And even sometimes as kids we're rewarded with, if we do well on our report card or do well in an athletic event, we're given an ice cream. So we start to make these connections with food and our behavior and our emotions. And as kids get older, they can use these foods as a coping mechanism for different emotions they're feeling at that time. Especially when kids get into the adolescent years, the teenage years, and those hormones are spiking, and there's a lot of social pressure. There's a lot going on in their lives. And so, they're not really taught or capable of dealing with a lot of these emotions. So they'll use food, comfort foods as a way of coping with these strong emotions. And some of the emotions that are prevalent, that a lot of kids in that age group, again, adolescence, teenage years, sadness or depression, even being bored, insecure, lonely, nervousness, anxious, all these different types of emotions, these states can trigger this response where they look for food, again, as a way of coping with these emotions. And of course, over time, this can really have a negative impact on their health. It can lead, of course, to overeating and the weight gain, obesity, leading as they get older into many different chronic conditions. So as a parent, as friends, we really want to try to recognize signs if kids are emotionally eating. We have to be able to decipher whether they're eating because, of course, they're physically hungry because of their physiology, or is it just based on the strong emotions that they're feeling. And just some cues to try to look for, to pick up on in your children, is the time they're eating. If they're coming home from school and they drop their book bag and go right for their refrigerator and look for something sweet, or maybe something crunchy like chips, something to that sort. That can be a trigger, that maybe they had a difficult day at school, and now they're looking for something to take their mind off of it, something that'll taste good, that'll give them a state of happiness, or they think it's going to give them a state of happiness. Of course, I already said, but the types of food, what type of food specifically? Is it sweet foods? Is it again, crunchy, like chips types of food, and crackers? Just try to be, very keen. Try to, look and see what types of food exactly they're going for. And again, try to correlate that with the time they're eating it also. How much food also. Usually if we're physically hungry, we'll come to a point where we're satiated, we're full, and we're stopped. But a lot of times with emotional eating, especially with children, they'll just keep on eating. So maybe again, it's a big bag of chips, and they just sit down and they plow right through the entire bag of chips. That could definitely be a sign that it's an emotional type of state they're in. They're eating because of that strong emotion they're feeling. How often too is this happening on a consistent basis? At certain times again? Is it every day after school? Is it after a specific type of event? Maybe they're involved in some type of social outing, and they come home and they go right for a certain type of food. So see if you can try to correlate what is happening in their life, and then what, in terms of what they're eating also, if there's any type of correlation there, can also be a strong sign of emotional eating. Cravings too, if you hear your child ask you, or you see again they go for a certain food at a certain time, And as their parent, you have a pretty good read on them, and you can tell, where they are, what their emotional state is. So that'll give you a lot of feedback too. But if they're craving certain types of food, that again is a strong sign that they are emotionally eating. And once you can kind of pinpoint when this is happening, what foods it is, you can also, there are many ways we can try to resolve these situations. There's a lot of options we can do to help our children. One is to help them keep a journal. Sometimes we're just kind of on autopilot as adults too. We don't even realize it. Something happens in our life. We have a tough day at work. We come home and again on autopilot we go for a certain type of food, and it just becomes a habit and we're not even aware of it. So sometimes just keeping a journal, helping your child keep a journal, and write down how they're feeling or how they're feeling before they eat. And again, that can just make it mindful, so your child can start to identify that it is the emotion that is the trigger for them eating. So a journal again is a great option. Just increasing time with your child also. It's chaotic these days. We're working. I mean, we have so many obligations and responsibilities, but statistically, we're spending less and less time with our children, and that's heartbreaking. But even just trying to carve out, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes here and there, just talking to your child after school or calling them even, any type of way you can communicate, increase communication, or the one-on-one time, of course, is optimal. But anything you can do to increase time with them will also be so helpful in terms of them controlling their emotions, and also, as we spoke about, preventing getting in this type of scenario where they're eating just based off of strong emotions they're feeling. So time spent, positive reinforcement. Again, I know with children it's so difficult. We want to do so well. We want them to do so well, and sometimes we can be overcritical. We can ask too much of them or not give them the space they require. But positive reinforcement is another, gives so much benefit to a child, to know you're always there for them. You may not agree, you may not be happy with them all the time, but to know that you're always there for them, right or wrong, can be very, very important in terms of them controlling emotional eating. If it is getting to the state where they are putting on a lot of weight, they're becoming very unhealthy, you may want to even think about getting some professional help, having them speak to a professional, and maybe they can also come up with different options to help children with their emotional eating. So professional help is out there, of course. Even teaching your kids different outlets. So if they come home after a rough day of school, if they're depressed or bored, maybe having them learn. Gosh, in our backyard we have a big trampoline, and it may sound silly, but I think a lot of times my daughter goes out there and she jumps for 10 or 15 minutes. Sometimes I'll go out there with her, and I mean, just like that, like a light switch, her mood will change. If she had a difficult day or she's stressed, they have so much homework these days. Sometimes I'll tell her, hey, let's just, put the books down and go jump a little bit. And boom, it changes her emotional state so quickly. Music, I know a lot of kids love their music, so maybe just giving them an outlet to let them listen to music, or taking them somewhere they really enjoy. But just try to come up with some outlets that can also serve as a coping mechanism instead of going to the eating. So outlets is another great resource you have. This is one that's becoming more popular, emotional intelligence. And boy, I really wish this was a topic at school, a class at school. I would put it right up there with any other topic: reading, writing, emotional intelligence. Teaching kids how to recognize their emotions, and not only recognize them, but then being able to deal with them constructively is something that even as an adult, I don't think a lot of us are emotionally intelligent. I'm certainly working on it. It's definitely something I'm aware of and I'm working on, but boy, emotional intelligence, if we could learn that as a kid, I think that would serve us so well moving forward. So emotional intelligence, starting to teach your child, anger, frustration, yes, they're going to happen. But the critical point is to not let it take over your day. Maybe for 5 or 10 minutes you're upset, you're angry, you're frustrated, but then being able to let it go and to move on and not let that emotion control you for the next day, 2 days, 3 days, months. So emotional intelligence is something that we all need to work on. But boy, if we can start them at a younger age, it again will pay such high dividends later in life. So again, this is emotional eating, and yeah, so many kids are, I think, afflicted with this. But there are many things we can do prevention-wise, many options we have. So I hope that helps you. If you could pass this on to as many parents as you know, again, it's becoming more and more prevalent, and I think it's something that really needs to be addressed. So please pass this on. If you could like this video also, that will just help get the word out to more and more people. And of course, if you like what I'm speaking of, I have many more videos I'm developing, and I'll be soon to be posted. So if you could subscribe, that would be great also. All right, thanks so much for watching. I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.